Hello, BetterMen friends. Today is Sunday, November 4th, 2012. And the reason I'm telling you the date is because the story I want to tell you is date related. About a week ago, in fact, a week ago today, my wife and I were in Brooklyn, New York for fun, a little vacation, and we ended up having to cut our vacation short because of a thing called Sandy, the hurricane that became the superstorm that devastated the Jersey coast, New York, and a third of the country. And the people who having to deal with the aftermath of that storm, and the people who are helping those folks out who need help, are the real heroes and the ones who are really going through it. But I have a story to tell you about our experiences before the storm, and hopefully a good point to make about us being the best men we can be. So we were back, my wife and I, we were back in Brooklyn, and we had some fun planned for Friday night. Saturday I began to hear some rumblings about this hurricane, and coming from California, I just had not heard any news about this hurricane, and even if I had, I don't think it would have changed our plans, because most of these things come and go and they don't cause a whole lot of damage and life goes on, that sort of thing. So here we are in New York, and I start to hear some talk about this storm, and it starts to get serious. So I think on Saturday we should, instead of leaving Tuesday, we should try to get out Sunday, the next day. I make calls. There's nothing available on Sunday. I'm late to this party. People have already been making plans. So I ended up getting a flight Monday morning. So that was that. We went about our day on Saturday, had a great time in the city. And then Sunday, I turn the television on. We get up late. I turn on a TV, and we start to see that, no, this is serious. In fact, somebody on the news said, this is no longer media hype. This is the real deal. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I knew I was late trying to change the plans when I did the day before. I felt somewhat impotent, that I needed to take care of us, and I didn't know how. And I really felt this pressure bearing down that if something doesn't happen here, we could get stuck. This could be really serious. So we were walking to breakfast, and in the back of my mind, it's still working, and I'm really distracted. And I'm feeling like there's something I need to do, and I don't know what it is. And all of a sudden this notion pops into my head. And there was this moment while we were walking across this busy intersection to breakfast where I had this thought, and I thought, is this the solution to our problem, or is this just crazy? And I thought, we need to rent a car and drive west and get out of here, because if we don't do it now, we could be stuck for days. So I get on the phone and I start calling rental car companies, and have some trouble getting through, obviously, because everyone's trying to do the same thing. Finally get through, finally make a reservation for a car at a rental company a couple miles away, and the offices will be opening at 4 o'clock on Sunday. So this is 3 hours away. We eat breakfast, and I start trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get a flight out? Maybe we can get out of Philadelphia or Dulles in Washington. So through several texts, I got the cell phone number of my travel agent back in California. We got back to the hotel. We get on the phone. We start looking at a map. And I ask her, well, check Dulles. It's all booked. Philadelphia, all booked. New Haven, Hartford, Syracuse, everything's booked. So I'm looking at Google Map, and I say to her, even though I didn't want to say to her, I said, what about Columbus, Ohio? And she says, there are 2 seats left in Columbus to LA. And I said, well, book it. And there we were at 3 o'clock on Sunday, and I've just committed to a plan of renting a car and driving 600 miles overnight to get a 6 a.m. flight the next morning. My wife was doing her crossword puzzle. She wasn't paying attention to the problem that I felt I needed to solve, because it really was my problem to solve. And the big struggle was wondering, am I overreacting? Am I going to wake up the next morning and think, you were out of your mind to do this? Or am I going to be a hero because I was blessed to have this thought somehow get into my head through all the doubt that you should rent a car and get the hell out of here? So we We walked over. There was a long line at the car rental company, and I'm sure the kids running it had never seen anything like this before. We get a car. It's a small little car, a little Toyota, no nav, no nothing, stripped down, but it was all they had. We get back to the hotel, we load up, and at 5 o'clock on Sunday, a week ago today, we started driving from Brooklyn across Manhattan to Columbus, Ohio, 600 miles away. The details of this story go on and on. My wife is not a navigator, yet she did a miraculous job with the iPhone. We somehow made no wrong turns going from Manhattan through New Jersey, which, if anyone knows that area, it's just a rat's nest of roads, and poorly marked roads at that. And 5 a.m. the next morning, we made it to Columbus. Now, this is 600 miles in the rain. It rained the entire time. White-knuckling it oftentimes down a two-lane highway with these trucks blasting water. You can just imagine what it was like, but you do what you have to do. And like I said, I just felt like I was blessed to have had this notion of how to take care of us in that moment. And everything had to sort of align for it to work out right. But when I tell this story to people back home now, I'm really struck by the doubt that I had to fight through in making the choice, because it seemed absolutely absurd to me that I would have to drive 600 miles to solve this problem. But it turned out that that is what we had to do, and together we did it. But my wife was supportive only because I was leading. I knew we had to do it. I was committed, and I let her know that. And I let her know that everything was going to be okay. It was a tough choice to make, but I think, and I know, actually, that we often have to make these really tough choices. We are thrown into situations sometimes that we're not prepared for. And we still have to make those best choices for our careers, for our families, for our children. And this was one of those situations. So the work pays off. Understanding commitment, understanding what a commitment looks like, and being willing to hold on to that commitment even when my own doubt was really eating at me. Is this the right thing to do? So this is a fairly long story, but it's a fascinating tale, probably one of the best stories I'll ever have to tell in my lifetime. And I wanted to share it, though, with that point that that to be the best man you could be, we sometimes have to dig very, very deep. But when we do, and we're committed, things work out. You know, my prayers are with all the people back east, and I know there was such loss. You know, I'm thinking of them while I'm telling the story, and I know that what we went through is nothing compared to what they're going through. But I hope this tale inspires you to dig deep the next time you're really challenged and that doubt and fear is coming down on your shoulders, and it's you who has to make that decision. And just know that you can make that decision, and it's your job to make that decision, and it will probably be the right decision.